All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Marcus from Off Campus Receivables, and I'm just going to run through a quick introduction to the new invoicing system that we have started implementing that runs through the PeopleSoft program. So I'm going to start by just showing you the general direction about how to access the page. So if you can see on my screen, we're just on the MyBYU page, just a general page. So in order to get there from the MyBYU page, there's a section called Campus Links. And under the work section, there is a link that is called Student Administration. And this is a link that we'll use to get to the new page. If you don't have access to this link or you can't find it, the best thing to do would be to reach out to your department administrator, or we should also be able to send you just a link to the page, which should work just the same, and then you can just bookmark the page to your computer. But for the sake of convenience, I will show you how this works. So it'll bring up this page, so just a blank PeopleSoft page. And then here, we're going to search. The page is called Invoice Group Data Entry. And then you just hit enter, and it might take a sec. All right, and so this is the page that we're looking for. So we're gonna click this. So this is what the new page looks like. And the best thing to do once you have this page pulled up is go to your favorites and then hit the add to favorites button right here, and then it'll save it here. So that way, anytime you come back to a PeopleSoft page, you can go to your favorites and it'll be a really quick, easy access to the group data entry page. So here on the invoice group data entry, we have two tabs. We have one to find an existing value and one to add a new value. So we'll start by looking at the add new value, since if this is your first time making an invoice, you'll need to, of course, add a new value. So first what you'll need to do is enter in your department name. And all the department names are 5 letter abbreviations, depending on what your department is. So this is something that we'll prepare for you. So that way when you start using the system, you can have everything already set up for you. But we have a few departments that are already in here. We did make one for ourselves, just the off-campus receivables. So for the sake of testing and training, we're just going to use this one. That way you can see what it looks like, for example. So you can click on the magnifying glass like I just did, and this will show you all the possible departments, and you can find your own if you don't already know what it is. But if you do, then you can just type it in, and then you would hit add to add a new value. And this is what the page looks like to create a new invoice. So up here in the top, we have the department information, which just have your department name and some information. There should be a phone number and an email for a contact within your department that should already be put in. We don't have one here because this is just for training purposes. But if you wanted to update that for a specific case or what it be, you can always make edits to that. And then there's a little invoice message here that should appear when you create an email with the invoice attached to send to a customer. And below the department information is the customer charges information. And here's where you would input all of the information you want to be included on the invoice. And so we'll start with the customer ID. So similar to the department lookup, if you know the ID number, you can just type it in. If you don't know, then you click on the magnifying glass again. And this part might be the most confusing step. So sorry if there's any confusion. If you ever get stuck on this part, you can always reach out to us and we'll help you out. But the field you're actually going to use to look up the customer is this last name field. Seems a little bit unorthodox, but that's just how the customer records are saved in the system. So if you know the customer name, you can just input their name right here and look them up. So let's say, for example, we wanted to invoice the Provo Temple. Just an example, we would look it up, and here's the Provo Temple. So I suppose we can make them a fake invoice just for the purpose of this training. Not to worry though, Provo Temple, we will not really charge you with this pretend invoice. But as you can see, so as soon as I selected that one, it's really nice and it filled in all of these information fields for me. which is pretty great. So this is all the contact information and everything. And then, but if you want to invoice a customer and they're not included in our system already, you can hit the request new customer button over here, and it will send an email to us, Off-Campus Receivables, with all the information that we need. This one's already filled out because the Provo template already exists, but if it didn't, then you could just input all this information for the new customer that you need, and then we'll get back to you as soon as we can with the new customer information, and you can make that invoice. Perfect, yeah, email's not sent. And down here is where we input all of the information for the invoice. So we'll start with the item type. Again, if you know the item type already, you can just put it in. But if you're not sure, you can hit the magnifying glass. And this list of item types might seem a little bit daunting. Don't be worried though. When you look up your list of item types, it will only have the list of item types for your department. So we have access to all the item types and all the chart blocks. So that's why we can see everything. But when you click on this, you should only see the ones for your department, which will make it a lot easier to figure out which one you need to use. But if we were just to select a random item type, let's just say we were going to do this one, then we would select it and it fills in all this first little information right here for us, including listing the operating unit, account, and class field, which is nice because then you can double check that and make sure that's right. And then it'll also automatically generate the short description depending on what the item type description is. Then here you can include a longer description. So doesn't really matter, but it can be a little bit longer than the short description. And then under the rate, here, this is also an optional field that doesn't need to be filled in, but this just kind of provides some more information that might be helpful to the customer. So let's say it's just 10 units per hour or something like that. And then here we input the amount. So let's just say that we're going to bill them $10. And then the due date should automatically generate the date that's 30 days past whatever the current date is. So that is the due date set for this one. If you need to alter that for whatever reason, this is also editable, so you can change the due date if you need to. And then if you want to add more item lines to the invoice, you can hit this plus button right here and just do the same process again and add another line. If you don't want multiple lines, then you can take that away by hitting the minus button, and that's just going to delete that extra row. And so now we just have this one. And so this is perfect. So once we have all of our information is ready and looks good and we've reviewed it, then we can save it, which won't create the invoice, but it'll save all this information that we've made in case we want to make it in the future. So this is like, so we can just have everything set aside for the moment before the invoice is actually posted. So it's not posted yet, it's just kind of like in the editable process still. But once everything looks good and we've reviewed it and everything is just how we want it, then we'll hit the post button. And then after we hit post, then we can't edit the information anymore because the invoice will be posted and it'll be created. So, but it looks good, so we're gonna hit yes. And awesome. And so not only does that create the invoice for us, but it also posted it automatically. So now we don't have to wait till the end of the day for the invoice to be posted. It's already posted to the customer's account. And then if we look right here where it says invoice number, it generated an invoice number for us that's unique to our department. And also if we click this little link, it should generate a PDF version of the invoice. So it's super cool. So now this is where we can see the invoice. And it has all the information of the charge and the contact information and everything else. So that's super, super neat. And then if we want to save a PDF copy of this invoice to our computer, then we'll just download it and then save it to a file onto our computer. Otherwise, we won't save it. I'm just gonna close this. All right, so this is pretty great. And then also, if we're here and, or actually, hold on. So this is the page for creating an invoice. So let's look at the page for finding an existing value. So let's say that it's been a few days since we made that last invoice, and now turns out we actually need to reduce it. So we want to edit the amount. So we looked up our department name, and then we know the invoice number. There's AR00002, I'm pretty sure. Perfect. Oh, also, actually, another convenient thing, even if you don't know the invoice number, let's say we don't know any of this stuff, but we do know our department name, so we want to look at all the invoices that we made. If you just query your department name, then it'll show up all the invoices that you've made in the past, and then you can look up the invoice that you want. So we want this invoice. And all right, so let's say that we accidentally charged them too much. $10 is too much. Then we can hit this reduce button. And over here, we can enter in a reduction amount. So this is going to be the original amount minus this new reduction amount will give us the adjusted amount. So we want to reduce this $5, right? Because we only want to charge them $5. So when we have that reduction amount in there, and then in order to save it, we'll hit post again because it'll automatically adjust that amount for us on the account. So we'll hit post. Yep, that's good. It says okay. And now this new adjusted amount is $5. So that's a super convenient way. Also, if you need to credit an invoice for whatever amount, you can also credit the invoice in full by posting a full reduction amount, and the adjusted amount will be 0. So that's kind of a quick, nice, easy way of doing that. And then if we click on the PDF version of the invoice again, we can see that the PDF has also been adjusted. So we can see it now shows the new amount that we've created. So that's super great. Darn Zoom controls. And that is really all there is to it. This is a new system that we're doing that we're hoping is a lot more simple, a lot more straightforward than the last system that we've been using. But if something doesn't make sense or you get stuck on anything, feel free to reach out to us. We're always here to help. The best ways to reach out to us are by email. Our email is offcampusreceivables@byu.edu. You can also reach us on the office phone, which is extension 27549. But good luck on the new invoices, and let us know if you ever have any issues.